I'm a Helltide Cowboy on my ghostless steed, right into the sunset, spilling out that demon seed. Well, the grave she waits for no one. You can't kill that witch, can't bleed. So get your greenhorns or the capstone boys, 'cause sanctuary's in need.
Well, howdy there, Hellcats! If you like what you see here, head on over to twitch.tv/DangerGrey, where that hunky Herodrum's going every night of the week. And, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, too. Hey guys, what's up? It's Danger. These are 12 pro tips most players haven't heard before. If you like what you see, come check out the stream on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/DangerGrey. We're going every night with Diablo 4. Pro tip number 1, Dungeon Renown gets shared in groups. Okay, so this is the fastest way to earn Renown, and I'm sorry to all my solo self-found friends out there. This is not going to be able to help you guys. However, if you're not playing solo self-found and you're willing to group up with others, if you group up with a friend or 2 friends or 3 friends is the fastest, you guys all head out to separate dungeons, and when you run those dungeons, everyone gets credit for the Renown when you finish, which used to be 30, now it's 40 Renown per dungeon cleared. And you try and head to dungeons that nobody has. You guys can even say like, oh, hey, do you have this one? No. Do you have this one? All right, cool. My friends and I like to play a game where we head to like the weirdest little dungeons that probably no one's done. You get credit for the codex and for the Renown, even if you're not in the zone. So as soon as you finish, the whole group's going to get credit. Now, the one thing you want to make sure of is people aren't dead or something, or zoning. We've had a couple instances like that, but we just make sure, hey, I'm going to kill a boss. Oh, okay, you guys ready? Yeah, cool. And then you do it, you know. Of course, this works fastest if you set to World Tier 1, because everyone can clear that much quicker. Pro tip number 2, efficient Helltide farming. So there's a few websites that you can use to look up information on Helltides to find out where the mystery chest is. I know it's cheating. For a long time I resisted, and then I realized that you could get like, I think 3 or 4 of them if you do it quick per Helltide, and we need those Forgotten Souls so badly. Actually, Blizzard made them a lot more plentiful now. Honestly, maybe even a little too plentiful. They've also beefed up the rewards for mystery boxes substantially. So now they're guaranteed to have several legendaries, all kinds of useful potions and knickknacks, and yeah, you should probably do it. So the one I use here is D4 Armory, but I think there's also like helltides.com and some other cool ones. So they just show, oh god, where is it? There we go. So here, it just shows the area where the Helltide is right now, and then if we zoom in there, we can see exactly where the mystery boxes are right now, as well as all of the event places in the area. So the efficient way to do a Helltide is to park yourself kind of here between those events and run around doing the events so you're getting Obols at the same time as you're getting Cinders, which is especially fun and intense now that they've buffed monster density so much in recent patches. There's now so many monsters during Helltides that you can kill efficiently between the events as well if you'd like, en route to your mystery box. Maybe the most important pro tip of all for Helltides is that the mystery boxes move. They move on the hour every hour. So if a Helltide starts at 2:30, the mystery box will move a half an hour in. And if a Helltide starts at 2:45, the mystery boxes will both move 15 minutes in. And if a Helltide starts on the hour at 3 o'clock or whatever time it is where you live, they will not move at all. This creates the mystery effect of the boxes, and the reason that you feel like it's kind of hard to predict when it's going to move is because it's based on the real clock time. It has nothing to do with any point during that Helltide. It actually just has to do with what time it is of day in the real world we live in. It's pretty tricky. If you ever got to one right before and you see it disappear, you know what I'm talking about. So that's another reason that these charts can be really, really handy. Again, you know, I don't love it, but if we're trying to be efficient, it's sort of a necessary evil, I'm afraid. Nice. Pro tip number 3, if you just need to sell, the best place to go is the Tree of Whispers. This has quickly become my favorite spot. I'll show you why. It's first of all, right out of the portal, bam, we can sell, right? So we can come here, we can be like, I don't need it. Oh, so we can sell our crap right there, right? Then if we need to go to the blacksmith, there's one right here. Bam. And if we want to throw gems in the bank, boom, or your stash, whatever it's called in this game. You got your stash literally right there, just down the steps. There's the portal, and there's your stash. It's amazing. And if you're extra lazy, you can mount for all of it, right? You can be even quicker to get down there. So also, I love this little ghost girl. She's like probably the coolest blacksmith that I've found so far. I like there's this like ghost chick blacksmith. She's like a super minority, right? There's not a lot of female ghost blacksmiths. Rusala, the malcontent. Oh. Well, I mean, you know, it's hard out here being a ghost blacksmith. Seriously, it'll save you so much time if you just need to go to town and sell really quick or jump a bunch of stuff in your stash and go back to dungeon crawling. However, if you do have business and you need to go to a proper town for it, you can do no better than my favorite town in this game so far, pragmatically speaking, Cerrigar. That tree always reminds me of Witcher 3, the tree that the sisters send you to, and you end up freeing the spirit from it, and Black Beauty rides off. Well, if you choose to help the spirit, which of course I did. I think a lot of people fight and kill it. Okay, so Cerrigar is the town. It's up in northern Skosglen, like top left of the map right here, kind of, I guess, straight up the top middle, really. But here's why I love it. If you come over here, first of all, you can mount up and head over here, and it's like the closest occultist that there is that I know of. So we're able to stay mounted, riding straight over to the occultist. It really is the absolute closest occultist to a zone in that I know. So you port right in, you got the occultist there, you got the potions over here, you got your jeweler just right over here. And of course, we can sell and do our blacksmithing on horseback. The only thing you can't do on horseback here is your stash. And you have the best purveyor of curiosities, the reason to come to Cerrigar above all the mounted sundries and such. Fitting. The purveyor of the most curious curiosities. He'll take care of you, friend. He's a nice fella, unlike that woman down in Kjovashad, you know. Could be better. No. Friend, I'm here to help you. I've got what you're looking for. And if you don't get it, you know what, buddy? I'm going to be here. We're going to find it together. Pro tip number 5, spend your obols on rings and amulets. Now, the best reason to pull for rings is because there are rings-only aspects, several of which are really game-changing for a lot of classes. For Barbarian, the Bold Chieftain's loop, there's actually a few for each class, I think, depending on how you're trying to do your build, but there are very, very, very rare aspects which can only appear on rings. So getting as many pulls of rings as you can from the Obols, purveyor of curiosities, is going to be really important. Now, they've actually gone and helped us out this season and given us some of these as codex aspects, finally. If you go over here, up here to season, and then over here to season journey, and you've got your different chapters here as you're going along, you're completing objectives. Make sure you're coming over here and checking for the different rewards that you're getting. So in chapter 2, right here, we have that Bold Chieftains aspect, which of course is a course aspect for my main class, Barbarian. I'm actually playing a hardcore Necro this season, and so I'm excited to have this one in here too. It's been really, really helpful. But these are, again, the low rolls because they're the codex versions. So we're going to want to be searching for these every pull we can. There's so many great aspects that can come on either weapons or rings. and you're going to need to get a lot of different copies of rings before you're going to be able to see all of them. So we're going to want to get the high roll on this, but this is a great filler for the meantime. And especially with all those changes coming to Barbarian, I'm really looking forward actually to playing my main class up to 100 again. And while it is true that they've added these to the seasonal codex so that they are available, which is wonderful for those of you that haven't been able to get one, like for me, it took me a very long time. This would have been wonderful in preseason if I had been able to do this. It is still the minimum roll, however, so keep that in mind. This is still every bit as important as it would have been in preseason, and in fact, probably even more so because we have all these different Wrathful Hearts that we're going to need to be slotting into these jewelry slots. Having these different rings is going to give you that variety for all those heart aspects as well as the actual aspects that you're going to be able to put on them. You're going to have a better chance if you set the world tier as high as possible. That doesn't necessarily mean saving them up until you're world tier 3 because you can only have so many when you're still at world tier 2. You probably haven't advanced the amount of Obols that you can carry at one time, but you do always want to pull at least on world tier 2, not on world tier 1, because you're going to have a better shot at higher items. You want to be pulling rings because, for example, for Barbarian, this Bold Chieftain's Loop. Now, I got one of these on the first day of early access beta, and my build was sick nasty. I didn't get another one of these until I was in my 70s on release, okay? So I was severely crippled not being able to cut my shots in half. It also doesn't help that even once I got one of these, Blizzard decided to very kindly cut the amount of time you can take off the shouts from 12 seconds to 6 seconds, but that's a different story. So by pulling rings over and over and over, I was eventually able to get a couple copies of this. There are a few different aspects. Additionally, aspects that can appear on your weapons that are very, very strong and important. You're going to get different rolls on these. So for like here, this Band of Ancestral Forest, I have this which I can take off and stick on when I get that ultra weapon, that like crazy nasty bomb. I mean, my weapon is really sick, but like could be better. So one day I'll probably put that 100% Hammer of the Ancients on something. So you're going to get extra shots at high rolls on these aspects as well. Rings can take aspects that can go on your weapons as well as gloves, I believe. Is that right? Yep, gloves, ring, weapons, and amulet. The other thing you're going to want to roll for is amulets. Now, it's not just because they can also get high rolls on these weapon aspects, which again are going to be really important to builds. Many classes builds revolve around the different aspects that you can put on weapons. It's also, side note, one of the reasons that uniques are mostly useless, at least for the Barbarian class, is because in order to use one of these stupid uniques, like this guy here, I would have to give up the fact that I can double up an aspect on one of my weapons. I can't do that. I can't afford to give up this Limitless Rage or the Ancestral Force or even the Edge Master. I mean, you know, like Grandfather is probably worth it, but aside from that literally lottery winning weapon, it makes uniques worthless. But that's a total side tangent. So as far as next go, not only are they going to also give you new shots at high rolls on the important aspects for your class, but also next have these unique stats on them, such as, see, I've got the 3 ranks to the wallop here. That is really huge for my build. Now, you're going to need to see a lot of necks to get really good shots at these different stats. I know Sork has several great rolls on, oh God, what is it? Glass Cannon, I think, is the one that you guys like to have on there. You're going to want to see a lot of different necks in order to get a shot at that perfect one. This one isn't perfect. I could have movement speed on it, would be more ideal. If not movement speed, then maybe Fury cost reduction. There's a lot of different really great stats that you can get on a neck, and to get them all together on the same neck, it's going to take hundreds of pulls of really nice necks. So get that world tier turned up as high as you can and use the Obols to pull for them, and eventually you'll get that perfect neck, or even a couple of them so you can switch them in and out. I have a defensive one and an offensive one that I keep with me at all times. And the place to go to get them, you can do no better than my guy Fiddig. Fiddig's gonna take care of you, all right? He cares. He's a listener. You know, it's, oh, hey, friend, how are you doing? Can I do anything for you? Oh, hey, now there's something special, you know? Let's pull a few. You'll see what I mean.
Well, there's something special.
Right off the rip.
Not a bad pull, that.
Yeah, not a bad pull, that.
Hello, Shining Beauty.
Hello, Shining Beauty. Pro tip number 6. Target farming items by monster type? A still rather little known fact about Diablo 4 is that you can target farm for items. Okay, so it's really important to understand that this no longer works for farming unique items anymore. They've disabled that functionality, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. However, this does work for farming any kind of rare items, so those yellows that you would turn into legendaries, which is all equipment that we wear nowadays, can be target farmed in the sense that certain monsters are more prone to drop certain kinds of items. So, if you're out searching for crossbows, if you are targeting bandits, for example, perhaps you're fighting in Alder's Cave, which is one of obviously the best dungeons of this season 1, you will see more drops of crossbows. Or if you're like me and always in the market for a better two-hand blunt, werewolves would be a great place to start. Now, if you're familiar with my work, you know that I'm a really big fan of giving credit where credit's due. I think it's terribly important as an artist and content creator and just generally good human being. For example, while I've tried to be open-minded about the notion of reaction videos as a genre, because I do see that there can benefit both parties in a lot of cases, I think it is utterly offensive and criminal that most of them you will find do not begin with credit to the person who made the original video, or even showing just their name, man, just their name. But anyway. So to discuss this topic, we should first begin with Zolmation, a user on the Blizzard forums who put an awful lot of work into collecting as accurate a collection of the information of target farming as he possibly could in the later stages of June and all through the early part of July. So as this topic began to be more hotly discussed in the weeks after release, user Zolmation put together this post on the Blizzard forums with spreadsheets and collecting data to try and get the information to be as accurate as possible. This is where I first heard about the subject and provided the basis for much of what is known today about target farming. However, in a quick search of the current information available on the subject, I did find this Game Rant post that seems to be a nice, clean display of the information and appropriately credits Zolmation as well. It's a really cool concept and one that I would encourage you to explore, and let me know what you find either here in the comments or drop by the stream and we'll talk about it. One of the things that's most exciting about Season 2 coming up soon is that they've promised to reintroduce the ability to target farm for uniques, and not just uniques, but the uber uniques, those ones that basically don't exist in the game and actually have been statistically proven to be more likely to win your local lottery than to win a grandfather sword, for example. Well, apparently Blizzard heard the community when we said that that was ridiculous and basically not itemization. That's just like a gimmick that a second grader would come up with for their video game, and not a thing that professionals would actually think would be a sensible thing to put into a game. And they've decided to change it. They apparently are going to be introducing ways for you to be able to target farm those extremely rare items, and one would have to imagine increasing the drop rate to something, you know, crazy, like, I don't know, a 0.5% chance per kill. Even that, like a 0.5% chance per boss kill, if the boss is fun and hard and drops other good loot otherwise, I'd be okay with. We'll see how much they up the drop rates to, but they are going to introduce this in Season 2, or so they've said, and that's something to look forward to. Pro tip number 7, start a collection of really strong rings. So you can start doing this early on, and you're going to have more access to find those great rings. You want to identify 2 stats that are really important for your class, and start looking for them. So for me, as a barbarian, I'm looking for resource generation and crit strike chance. Then I also probably want crit strike damage on there. And that 4th stat, it's really a good idea to be flexible on the 4th stat for a lot of reasons, and this goes to actually all equipment. The more flexible you are on what that 4th stat is on an item, the more gear is going to be open to you. If you're extremely rigid on what pieces of gear you're willing to take, like if you're looking at build guides especially, don't take build guides as gospel. Don't take them as literal, follow them exactly. You're really going to limit yourself. And a lot of them honestly are not that accurate, but that's a different topic. When you're looking at a guide and it says these are the stats that are important to have, be flexible with what that fourth stat is, because you're going to have a much larger range of items that you're going to be open to wearing, and because of that, you're going to have better gear. You just are. That allows for the creativeness in your build, the uniqueness in what you're building. So find at least 2 stats that you want to identify and start looking for those in rings. Now, the reason you want to do it with rings is a fewfold. First, there's 2 of them. So it's one of the only items where if you want to slot in something else, you can move one of them over, and there's that flexibility to the slot. So we were just talking about how rings can take the same aspects as weapons. Well, I've started a collection of these rings that have really great stats on them so that I can put aspects on them if I want to try them. So for me, I usually run around. I have a kind of a unique build. I swap from one-handers to two-handers for the Hammer of the Ancients hit, using a glyph called Mortal Draw that boosts attack power when you swap weapon types, as well as an 18% chance for the skill to crit strike. That the weapon swap allows for a lot of extra damage. A lot of guys are getting rid of the basic skill and using Ground Stomp. I do still actually use Ground Stomp, but because I'm still using a basic skill, I keep this rapid aspect on my gear. So I've got it on a ring a lot of the time here, and basic skills gain 30% attack speed there. But if I want to swap in, let's say, Circle of Berserk Ripping, I find that the Berserk Ripping aspect, I think, is really strong. It doesn't give you those huge crits that we're looking for with Hodo that we love so much. You know, they're fun. But I think that it really does a bunch of damage. So I've been wearing this a lot lately. So if I want to wear this, but I don't want to lose that rapid aspect, I have this pair of gloves that I put on that I swap in here. I'm a lot of times lately I've been wearing these gloves that see a stacked the crit strike chance against injured as a stat, along with the aspect that has crit strike chance against injured. So, but if I put these gloves on, that gives me that flexibility there. Another way that I use the rings as a flex spot is I just picked up this pair of Temerity pants recently. It's one of the few uniques that's actually useful for barbarians. Now, it's kind of a low roll, as you can see here. It's got that 52, at which, you know, between 40 and 80, that's you'd want it to be better. But I still think it can be obviously incredibly useful that you can still pop a potion even at full health and you instantly get that barrier. It gives you like more utility to your potions, as well as, I mean, you know, being able to pop a barrier even if it's only 52% is obviously excellent at some times. Anyway, I just got these fairly recently, and I wanted to work them into my set here. So when I put on the Temerity pants, that allowed me to maybe try using this conceited aspect, right? That adds the damage when you have a barrier active. So also, I think that was a broken aspect. If you tried it a couple weeks ago, they fixed it just at the beginning of July. So worth trying if you haven't tried it since then. But I wanted to try this aspect. So if I put it on a ring here, although it's a weapon aspect, I'm able to swap it in easily here with some flexibility, right? So if I swap this in, I can move that rapid aspect over to my gloves, and you see how this is. So a lot of times I'm keeping this earthquake band on. Like I said, I use ground stomp. I really think it's interesting to be able to stand in. You actually get quite a bit of damage here. And of course, with 1.1.2, we're now looking at 25%, the 15. So I like to keep that on a lot of the time. I'll take this off if I'm doing a high nightmare dungeon that's got volcanic in it. Well, I'm paying so much attention to the monsters and everything that I really need to not even have a risk of standing and stuff. So I pretty much keep myself moving all the time rather than looking for a volcanic, because I don't want to be, you know, it's one mechanic I can kind of not worry about as much if I'm moving my feet, right? So whatever reason, if I can't stand still, I probably want to take off Earthquake Band because it's not doing a lot of good for me. So I'm able to take it off and put in something else there on the rings. Another ring that I use a lot is Mother's Embrace, right? So this is one that we all get when you clear the game the first time, and then it starts dropping for you. This can actually, although I'm sacrificing that stat, the resource generation that I have on some of these rings that are so great. I mean, look at that ring. Ring's pretty nasty. I'm really proud of that one. So, but the Mother's Embrace, as long as you're hitting 5 enemies, you get 40% of that core skill back. I mean, that is a lot of resource right there. So when I throw this on, oh my god, I literally just have full fury the entire time, even though I'm ditching that stat. So in order to create this environment where I have all these, you're keeping an eye out all the time for these excellent rings. And I just got this earlier today. This thing is something. Here, wait, let me just get me off the screen here. So, look at the stats on that, baby. That is a piece. So I'm probably gonna re-roll the damage to slowed, but oh my goodness. Of course, with season 1 being all about those malignant hearts, there's more reasons than ever to be conscious of starting this collection of strong rings early. And just to hammer home this point about flexibility one more time, if you get a piece of gear and you need to replace something because you got this like awesome new version of it, but you're going to lose an aspect, having this collection of really strong rings is going to give you an easy way to replace whatever aspect it is that you want to work in there. Because like I could always ditch the earthquake aspect, right? Like it's not essential. So I can put it, let's say I need to put a weapon in and I'm going to lose my inner calm, right? So let's say I'm going to lose inner calm. I could take that, put that on a ring. Or I could put expectant on a ring, whatever it is. So having that collection of strong rings is really, really going to improve your ability to have flexibility with your build. Pro tip number 8, make sure you're adding sockets to everything. So you can add sockets to every slot that isn't gloves or boots at the jeweler. It's the 3rd tab in here, and you add them by using these scattered prisms. So there are 3 main ways to get scattered prisms in the game that I have found. The first, when you're a lower level hero, is from treasure goblins. Treasure goblins have appeared in the series since, as long as I've been playing the Diablo games. They'll appear as like a little goblin icon on your map. You want to chase them down whenever you see one, or sometimes you'll see little bits of gold making a trail. Run those golds down and see if there's a treasure goblin at the end of it. You'll see them on the mini-map. Sometimes you gotta stun them or slow them in order for them to not get away, but they will drop scattered prisms, which can be very, very, very difficult to get when you are a lower level hero. Now, I don't know if this is just because I'm new to hardcore or what, but does anyone else like lose your mind when you see a treasure goblin and do things you would never do normally? Or is that just a me thing? I mean, look at me here. I just like lose my gourd when I see a treasure goblin. I gotta get it. Especially now that they've upgraded the loot, which if you haven't been in here for a while, if you're just coming back for season 2, maybe you're excited about that vampire season. Guess what, guys? They have majorly upgraded the loot drop tables for treasure goblins. And if you are like me and you do lose your mind, make sure you check out our section on hardcore death elixir ingredients. Other than treasure goblins, you can get them from world bosses and from event chests inside dungeons. So you see I have a bunch. Most of those are from running events inside Nightmare Dungeons. I have like almost 200 of them. But the point here is that it's very easy to forget to add them once you're a higher player. I see players all the time that don't have sockets on items. It's really easy to forget to add sockets to things. You can socket everything that isn't your gloves or your boots. Also, you can socket lower level heroes items if you have a higher level hero. So you can put like a ring, like a level 13 yellow ring. You could put that in your stash, pick it up on your higher player, because I don't think you can even use the jeweler until you're maybe level 20 or something, but you can put that in your stash, grab it on your higher level character, and add the socket to it, throw it back in the stash, and your lower level character will be able to add gems, although the gems will still be restricted by level, so maybe you don't need to do it to level 20 anyway. But you can also, little mini pro tip, you can add your aspects from your higher level character to lower level character's gear. Now, I was going to make a separate tip for this, but when I was running tests on it, although I added like 9,000 HP barriers to my level 10 druid, or 15 druid, it didn't seem to me like I was getting 9,000 HP worth of barrier, so I didn't want to throw it in here as its own tip, because I'm not sure that just because the tooltip says it doesn't mean it's gospel. But play around with it. You can definitely add from your codex higher level spells, and I think you're getting a higher level effect, although I'm not sure they actually hold up to the whole amount. Pro tip number 9, always pick up resources and the secret beast bones layer. When you are out in the world, passing by resources, stop and pick them up. You are going to need them for potions later, and I can all but guarantee you are underutilizing potions. Our next 2 pro tips, in fact, will show you how you can make potions work for you in ways you didn't know were possible. So while you're farming Renown and getting your Helltide cinders, grab all the resources that you can. On Skosglen, there's the Under the Fat Goose Inn questline. If you haven't done it, you really should. It's one of my favorites in the game. But that waypoint is the closest to this little nook here. See this little triangle? That's where we're going. So this guy, Gaspar Stilbion, will drop. Now, I'm going to say the number 5, but you're going to pretend you hear the number 2, okay? And I'll explain why in a minute. Are you ready? 5 crushed beast bones every time you kill him. 5 guaranteed beast bones every kill. Wouldn't it be great if that was true? Well, it was for about a month after I first made this video. Unfortunately, it's been nerfed down to 2. If you are low on crushed beast bones, see that? +5? 2! Especially you guys that are playing hardcore, it's the best place to get your crushed beast bones. Like I said, it was the best place to get your crushed beast bones. If you'd like to get tips like this delivered to you as soon as I discover them, before Blizzard's had a month to ruin it, head to my Patreon I just set up. It's patreon.com/DangerGrey, that's Gray with an E, or head over to twitch.tv/DangerGrey and you can subscribe. This first D4 YouTube project was a bit of a perfect storm for things to happen exactly the way that they did, and about a year of self-taught YouTube all crammed into an 8-week session, but there's been a lot of benefits from that. So I'm really looking forward to getting the next one out. I'm putting out the content as quickly as I'm able to while working the full-time job, but as soon as I'm able to become a content creator full-time and focus on D4, that is what I'm going to be doing. So if you care about the content and you would like to get these kind of tips soon, please come support me and we can make it happen together. As it is, the best place to get the beast bones and all the other ingredients that you need for those hardcore death elixirs is included in this next tip, which was the best place to level, but is now maybe one of the best places to level. And it is, however, the best place to get all those ingredients. So just stay tuned for the next tip, which is Town is Lava. Now the respawn is not that quick. I don't know exactly. I think it's something like 10 minutes, so I wouldn't necessarily sit here and camp. But if you need resources, you can run around Skosglen and collect your Howler Moss, which is the most important of all of them, I think. This one's going to seem kind of obvious, but did you know that Howler Moss, Biteberry, Redamine, Blightshade, and Lifesbane are each found only in one of the parts of the continent? Pro tip number 3, Town is Lava. Now this applies to when you're trying to level up quickly and efficiently, okay? Now this tip was originally about the Seller's Trick, which we used at the beginning of Season 1. It was probably the fastest, or one of the fastest ways to level up at the time. And how it works is really simple. You find a spot on the map with 2 cellars that are really close to each other, and you just clear back and forth between them, one to the other, to the other, to the other. And you're going to want to be set on World Tier 2, and what you'll find is, when you pop into these cellars, there will frequently be events in there. They can give you even more XP, The best of them, of course, is the Cursed Chest kind of event, or a Cursed Healing Pot. What you're going to see here through the rest of this tip is footage of us doing this. But you can do this anywhere on the map. There's lots of different places where you get 2 cellars like this, right? And so here's the spot where those 2 are. And when you go back and forth between them, what you're doing is you get the resets nice and quick like that. By doing this, you're able to continuously be killing, and that is the idea. When the season started, we did 1 to 30 in about 3 hours, and while you can do that quicker now, quite a bit quicker, the reason that you'd still want to do this is for potion ingredients. I was able to get all of the ingredients for Elixirs of Death Evasion on Hardcore in about, like I said, in that 3-hour time period. We did 1 to 30, and then we had enough for me to make, I think, 12 elixirs. Before you're doing those endgame nightmare dungeons, this is absolutely the best way to farm those ingredients that I know of. And since then, there's been some changes just in the last couple weeks, right? So we've got the change to dungeons, where now dungeons are all starting at level 1, and they used to have different starting levels. So now you can just run the same dungeon over and over again. such as Ulder's Cave would be a great one. There's a lot of them. Or, of course, people are running the Dohamine tunnels is the new thing this week. Rax has a video up where he's doing, I think, like an hour and a half, 1 to 40. If you don't believe me, go check it out. It's absolutely ridiculous. The Blood Surge Necro, which I gotta give props to my girl Sailor Moon. Since the beginning of this season, that has been her Necro build. We got a lot of really great hardcore Necros in my guild, GG No Re, and they've been knowing this for a while. But the point here is that the best place to level is gonna change, right? It's gonna change with the game is gonna change, which is actually one of our last tips here, tip number 12, because it's really important one that your information should be current. But because the tips are gonna change, I'm gonna talk to you about the things that aren't gonna change, right? So the places are always gonna change. There's always gonna be a better place around the corner or a better build, but the basic strategies that go into it are not. And that can be simply summarized as town is lava. Town is lava. So what does that mean? It means a couple things. It basically means you're not picking up any items that you're not going to absolutely wear, right? And you don't need to be going and selling or salvaging or anything at the early levels, because those are minutes that you could be spending killing things. And while you're sitting there debating whether you'd rather have +1 strength or +1% damage reduction on your chest, you could have killed 4 monsters, in which case one of them would have dropped something better than this bullshit that you're debating over anyway. The only stats that you need to pay attention to are the DPS on your weapon that you are using, right? So if you're a barbarian and you're using your top DPS 2-hander and you're not using those one-handers, don't pay attention to anything about what's in them. It literally doesn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter. What does matter are those precious seconds that you're going to waste going to town to sell and salvage. You don't need the money. It's going to be almost nothing. And you don't need the salvage materials. They're going to be almost nothing, from at least 1 to 40. And the final tip for insanely fast leveling is to know your build ahead of time. If you know where every single point is going to go, you're not going to spend time with your nose in your spell book looking at all the different abilities that you have and the different options that you could be take this or that. You're just going to be able to know where the points go. You say, oh, I got another point. Bam, you punch it in and you're ready to go. Between that and not picking up any items, you will cut massive amounts of time off your early leveling stages. So, one more time, say it with me now, nice and loud.
Town is lava!
Town is lava! Pro tip number 10. Resists have diminished returns. So, it's important to note that resistances in Diablo 4 are still extremely broken. You are better off taking a damage resistance stat over any kind of elemental resistance in most situations. They don't work the way that they say they do. Resistances aren't triggered when you'd think they should be. And the general consensus is that armor is the only important stat to be stacking when it comes to trying to resist magic spells in the way that it's currently built. However, with Season 2 on the horizon, Blizzard is talking about changing resists and making them meaningful or useful, and that would be awesome. I'll believe it when I see it, personally, but hey, with all the promises they're making for Season 2, in another few months, we might actually be out of beta. Woo! Anyway, I think it's great to understand how resists work in the game, because I suspect that numerically what's going on is what's intended to be the actual functionality of resistances. It's just the behind-the-scenes stuff, like where they're triggered and why damage doesn't get reduced in the way that it purports to. Those are the kind of things they're going to fix. But these diminished returns seem to kind of be like right on point with what would make sense if they actually worked. So, with resists, you would think that when you add 22% to poison, 22% to shadow, 22% to lightning, that it would go on as 22% of your resist. So 5 of those gems would be all the resist you need. It's not how it works. If you've been clever enough to mouse over it and at least, read the in-game notes, then you know that armor makes up half of resist. So we're looking at poison resist here. I have 35% resist to poison. Reduces incoming poison damage by 17.8%. And that 17 is because 35% of half is, of course, 17. Now, this gets diminished much, much further as we go up the scale. And I'm going to show you right now how much. We're going to unsocket the skulls that I have in this ring, my Berserk Ripping ring, right? Okay, so we take that out. So, no effect here in these numbers yet. That the armor isn't shown here. This is just the resist, so 35.5. So if we take an emerald, which has the poison resist, and add it in there. It's 22.2 is what the emerald is. And yet we got, what, 5.4? So now we're at 40.9. So we got 5.4% out of a gem that theoretically adds 22.1. That is a pretty drastic difference. So we're only getting 5.5% out of a gem that should be giving us 22. Well, what about the others? Where does it start not applying very high? My lightning resist is at 51.1. If it's the same, then it would go up to 56.5. We get the same amount from it. Yikes. We were getting 5.4, and now we're getting 1.9 out of it. So drastically diminished returns. So at 35, that royal gem gives you about 5.4. At 51, it gives you 1.9. Let's go lower. 53.0 becomes 51.1. My shadow resistance is only 22.4. We're going to take the amethyst, so 22.1. Ooh, 22.4 became 30.7. So, oh gosh, quick math. Okay, wait. 8.3? Yeah, 8.3. When my resist was 22, the 22 gem gave us about 8%. When my resist was 35, it gave us 5.4%. And when my resist was 51, we got 1.9. Quite literally, it's an exponential decrease as you go up. I think the place where they really start to fall off is right around 45. Right around 45, it's totally not worth it. I think up to that point, if you're trying, especially poison resist, poison is everywhere in this game. Poison will kill you faster than just about anything else in this game, resistance-wise. So in just my personal opinion, I think stacking poison can be helpful.
Not while I'm in town.
Okay, so the Curative Elixir is a potion that you cannot just make just by logging into the game and getting levels. You have to do a special quest for it, which I did not know. I didn't even know that they existed. A friend of mine told me about them. We were in the Blind Burrows doing spiders, and he said you should use these potions.
Now that's the good stuff.
This is the quest giver. I just finished it.
What scorpion one needs. Stuff's not for the faint of heart.
He says that's the good
your reward. My recipe for an antidote. If my wine knocks you out, here's the fix for the morning after.
All right, Bahrain. Pinch of poison. Okay, so we got curative cash. What's in here? Look at that. Curative elixirs. Boom, 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 boom. And the recipe for it, which I assume we take to an alchemist. Perfect. So the curative elixir is... Where is it? Right. Makes you unstoppable for 1 second. So this can save your life. If you are in a situation where you are stopped, you're stunned, you're crowd controlled, and you're dying quick, first of all, what you want to have is there is an enchant, listen to me, an aspect is what they're called in this game. Here it is, I have it on this breastplate. Becoming injured while crowd controlled makes you unstoppable for 4 seconds. So this will literally break that crowd control. If you're like stunned and dying, and I'm sure hardcore players know this enchant. I'm probably sure they've had it on from a very young age. But it will break it for you. However, it can only go off every 20 seconds. So let's say that you're fighting in some situation with spiders, or even I think the scorpions kind of mess you up. They stop you. It goes off. 15 seconds later, you're dying again. This elixir could save your life, or if you don't have this aspect, it definitely could. So it makes you unstoppable for 1 second. What unstoppable does is, well, I'm sure it actually says on the breastplate at the bottom down there. Yeah, it does right down there at the bottom. Unstoppable characters have all control impairing effects removed and prevented. It literally breaks the crowd control, right? So anytime you go below 35% of your life with this on, boom, instantly, you're out of it. You're able to go, and you're not dying. You can also hotkey this by going into the, whatever you call this, the wheel, the emote wheel. and you go over to one of the sides where you don't have, or anywhere really, and go to customize, right? And then you can add it over here, consumables. You can actually hotkey all this stuff, any of these elixirs, but the ones that you'd really want to have would be like this one, for example. It makes you unstoppable for a second, and really, it'll bust you out of a jam. Oh, probably at the list of ones that I have, I bet. Yeah, there it is, duh. So it's in here, right here, Curative Elixir, right? So I'm putting it on top right, yep. Okay, save changes. Now I think we can actually hotkey that. So you go here, you go into options, go to controls, and key bindings. Here we go, look at this, wheel, right? The left side, it was left, top, right, I think, yeah? Look at that, we can hotkey it. So we can hotkey that to, I don't know, let's put it on as, what's the thing that we're not using right now? Let's put it on as, C for curative, right? Wrong. Do not do this. I wasted assloads of these because of how frequently I will start typing and not have the actual text box open. So please, allow me to make mistakes so that you don't have to, and do not bind these or anything else you care about to a letter key. Boom. Curative Elixir. So, save changes. Okay. Oh, and also, if you don't have this on yet, real quick, in your gameplay, I think, Advanced Tooltip Compare. You should turn this on. It's one of the most important things you can do for your game. Advanced Tooltips will show you, and Advanced Tooltip Information, I think you want to turn both of these on. And that is how you, when you're looking at gear and you see people are showing, and you can see the range of things here. See, it goes from the imprinted 50%, from 25 to 50%, that range. That's how you turn that on. I know that that's a silly little tip, but a lot of people don't have it on. I was surprised how many. So that's how you can see what the range is, so you can actually tell how good your gear is or not. Is or isn't. So some of the best XP in the game is still Legions, okay, even at level 90 for me. And that was true as soon as I was able to go to them and start paying attention to how much XP they gave. I don't know how much they gave below 60, but I know that when I got to T4, right at level 59, I think, I finished the capstone and got to we ran straight to a Legion right after it. And I got an entire Paragon point at the Legion event just in the 4 minutes or however long it takes for a Legion event to go on. Now, that has slowly decreased over time to where now I get definitely less than half of one, but I still get a noticeable amount. And that is not just from doing the Legion event, however. There's a couple things you want to do when you get there. First of all, you want to hit the campfire right away. A lot of you know this already, but the campfire is one of the most important parts of the Legion. It adds a huge buff to the XP that you're going to get from the Legion event. You want to get there early enough for the stacks to add up. They add up over time. I don't think it adds up anymore. The more that you add it, you can keep clicking it. It's not going to help. You just need to get there early enough for it to add up, because once the event starts, it stops adding up. Right now, you see we're at 6 here, 7, and so that'll keep going up while we wait for the event to start. I think the sweet spot that I've found, if you're going to try and cut it close, is somewhere around just under 2 minutes. But the sooner the better, because why risk it? It definitely helps. Every stack of that adds to the XP significantly. Then also, due to the buff that you get for XP by adding people to your group, once I get there, I start inviting people to group. And more often than not, they'll accept the invite. And then afterwards, we just all drop group and, go our separate ways. Or maybe you make friends. I mean, I've made a couple friends from these events. But it adds to the XP that you're going to get from it. See, we've already got someone in the group. So that's another way to boost the XP that you get while you do the Legion event. And then, of course, consume. And that's not just for Legion events. It's for all the time. But you want to keep making sure that you always have a potion up. If you don't want to use a big one, because these are obviously pretty easy, use whatever. Use one of the ones that you get when you're running around the world. What, weak elixir of cold resistance? Like, I'm probably not going to need that. I'll pop that right now so that I can save the good ones for when I'm in a nightmare dungeon.